Welcome to a brand new franchise series on the channel. We're going to be building a critically endangered eco zoo in the series, and as you can see, it's set in the desert. So what do I mean by critically endangered eco zoo? And yes, I am aware it is a bit of a mouthful. So essentially, I'm going to be focusing on animals that are on the critically endangered list, and the eco part references to the buildings, inspired by recycled and reclaimed materials. So with that being said, I hope you enjoyed this series. So every franchise comes with a standard Planet Zoo entrance that we're going to delete and get a little extra money back. And then we're going to grab the spawn points and the ticket booths and move them so they're not on the edge of the map. So this is going to be the start of our zoo. I'm going to count out 10 blocks, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And this is going to give me plenty of space to build a building. And then from this section up here, we are going to just put like a little black dot in. From here to here is going to be our entrance building. But essentially this is going to be the start of our zoo. So next we have to pop in facilities. So the first one is your animal trade centre that allows your animals to come into your zoo. Next we're going to get in a small keeper's hut, a vet. Now the rest of them I don't use. Quarantine, never put it down. Research centre, we're going to throw this at the back here. There you go, and then the workshop as well. So that'll get everything all unlocked. Now the next thing that we're going to do is jazz this up. So I know exactly what you're thinking, where is your staff room? And we don't actually have a staff room in this particular bit. But however, there is a temporary staff room that I do put at the back of this, so don't at me at the comments thinking I'm being unfair to my staff members. That's not entirely the case. So I mentioned this at the start of the video, but a lot of the materials that will be used will be recycled and reclaimed materials. So you can see that right now we're making this building out of plyboard. I don't necessarily think it's called that. Chipboard I think it might be called. Anyway, it's 100% recycled material, and I really like the way that this turned out. If you are a subscriber on my channel, you will know that when I build in franchise, I really focus on just getting the bare bones down, really focus on trying to get as much in as possible, and it does not look good. In this series, I'm trying to take my time with it and really just enjoy the process of building in Planet Zoo, which is something that I've not really done for a while, so I'm really excited to see how this turns out. So now I'm just grabbing this like decals, and I'm just putting them where there would be like heavy foot traffic. I know it kind of blends in quite a lot with the ground, but I also think it just like looks really good. We do change this out later on, but just, you know, it looks nice from my perspective, so we're just going to go with it. So here I have made these trims that are going down at the edge of the building, and the reason why I've done this is if you go around to the side of the building, sometimes you will get these gaps between the pavement and your actual building. You can definitely see it here. So we're just taking that decal there with the mud and we're just closing that little gap off, and then I'll just continue with the trim as well, so you don't have that sand which is between the building and the pathway there. So I'll just speed this up because obviously you've seen me put it down, so it's not really that interesting. Okay, so that's the staff area finished. I am quite happy with the way it turns out. The only thing I do need to check is the negative impact on our guests. So when you click on this and you look at the scenery rating, it's at 100%, which means that you will not have any negative impact on your guests, and that's exactly what we like to see. So we need a keeper, a caretaker, a mechanic, and a vet. There's our staff, and what we want to do before they go off on their little merry adventure, we actually want to look at their uniforms. Okay, so they're all pretty much the same. We've went with these blue trousers with a nice white top, and that is just because we're in a hot environment and it's to try and keep them a little bit cooler. Okay, so now we have our staff room in and our staff, we want to do is actually create a bit of a work zone. Work zone 1. And then all we have to do is make sure that all of our staff are assigned to work zone 1. So our first animal that we want to get in is the aardvark. Maybe a bit of a boring one, but it's also relatively cheap to buy. So when you go to your Zoopedia, if you come onto your third tab here, it tells you that you can have one male and one female in the habitat. It also says that they are shy and that the guests can't enter the habitat. But because they are shy, you've got to make sure that they're just not freaking out completely. So bear that in mind. So we've got 2 adults going in, and they also produce 1 offspring. So we've got 2 adults, 1 kid. So we need 420 meters squared. So what I want to do is I want to just get my null barrier here, and all I want to do is we're just going to angle snap this out, and we are going to try and figure out how big that habitat actually needs to be. Not big enough.
That's what she said.
Sorry for my immature joke there. I can totally understand if you want to unsubscribe, but that is the kind of humour that you'll get on this channel. Anyway, so let's go to edit barrier, click on that circle there, and you can move this about anywhere you want. So really do play about, don't just like settle just because you've went away and built a barrier. And then you can decide how much money you want to spend on this. So you could go for something really cheap, electric fence £1, corrugated £1. So for me, I've went for the electric one, and the reason for that is, although it is a grade 6, which we don't actually need it, it's also semi-transparent so the guests can see in, and the dilapidation is at none so it won't break. So is it a bit too much for our animals? Yes it is. And this is just temporary. This is not what we're going to be putting in, because my main focus is to get in a restaurant. So I'm just going to build this out a little bit so our guests can actually see inside the habitat. Then we're going to pop in a burrow as well for our animals so they've got somewhere to escape. So we've got the foraging box, the water pipe, and because we are in a hot place, I'm obviously going to add in the sprinkler as well. So with that being said, let's get our animals in. So here are 2 adverts here which are named Winky and Dobby from a very popular book series. I'll let you guess what it is in the comments below. The person who does get it right will win a place forever in my heart. Good luck. So now we have to get work zone 1 and basically add the habitat into it so our keepers and our vets know to look after Winky and Dobby. And it will be magical, and if that is not a hint, then I can't help you. I really can't help you. Magical. It's been done. Okay, so our guests are starting to come in. Pause it. So what we want to do now is look at some habitat facilities. So we have our education in here, we've got the education board, we've got the donation bin, and we also have the speaker, which if we stretch out our range here, you can see the people in the corner will be able to listen to the aardvark stories. We do have quite a lot of guests here, which I don't actually want them on this pathway, so we're going to move them over. But before we do that, I'm going to have to get like a barrier put in place and also look at our power here. So you can see if we want to power this corner, we're going to have to get another power source, and the ticket booth acts as a perfect power source. So if we take that and we'll just drag it up, and again this is all just temporary for the moment and it gives us that little boost. And then like I say, I don't want our guests to come up here, so if we go to facilities, curb barrier, which is there, and hopefully if we sink this down, let's hope these guys come out and we don't have anyone else going that way. So far so good, it looks like. This guy looks a bit confused. I think he is trapped. Okay, so let's move him out of the way, and these guys as well are trapped. Let's pick them up. But there we go. We have a temporary habitat, and I think they are okay. They might get a little bit stressed. Their last meal quality isn't fantastic. But apart from that, I think they're okay for just now. I want to put in some facilities for our guests. So as you can see, I've selected a restaurant, and the reason for that is because restaurants mean that the guests don't drop litter. They obviously don't have any rubbish to take with them when they sit down and eat their food, and then when they exit they just don't take anything, which is absolutely fantastic. So it does mean that you don't have to spend that much money on your caretakers to keep your zoo nice and clean, and it also looks good. Let's be honest, I feel like a lot of places will have the trucks, the kiosks that you can just quickly grab something to eat. But there's something quite nice about having the restaurant in your zoo, and as I said, there's a massive benefit for it as well. So there will be quite a lot of restaurants in this franchise series. I am aiming to maybe have about 2 or 3, depending how the series goes. But essentially, what I'm doing now is we're just decorating it. So the inspiration for this was I wanted it to feel like it's a place where you look at it and you think, I'm not too sure if we should eat there. But you just know that the food is going to be absolutely amazing. Like, it's really fresh. They take so much care and pride into the preparation of the food that they just kind of neglect the surrounding areas. And I've been to a couple places like that where you look at it and you think, oh, I'm not sure about this. But then you go and you're like, wow, that was absolutely delicious. So that is the kind of the theme of this restaurant. It is a shipping container that has been recycled, repurposed, reused. And they literally just thought, okay, we've got this massive shipping container. We're just going to throw a kitchen in here, and the guests essentially eat outside on these like plastic kind of like deck chairs. And again, there's like no thought, no consideration to the look. It all goes into the food. So that was the inspiration for it. There is like a little bit of more theming when we get more into the building. Essentially just now I'm just trying to make the shipping container look like a shipping container. There is a little bit of detail that I want to add into this. The more that I go, it's just because you're in franchise, I do pay a lot of attention to my money as well. We're actually doing really good with money, so that's a massive bonus. But like I said, it's trying to fit within the theme of it being repurposed, reused, recycled. And I recently went on a work trip down to Bristol. And Bristol's such a fantastic city in terms of the reusable, recycled vibe that they've got going on in the city, that we went to a couple of bars, and the closer that you looked at your surroundings, you're like, wow, this place is basically exactly the theme that I wanted for Planet Zoo. That I went to a bowling alley and they had IBCs, which is like this massive plastic container where you usually put food and liquids in to store it. But what they done is they repurposed the IBC and made it into a lamp, which was absolutely fantastic. Then I went into the bathrooms and there was like chipboard on the like the stalls. And instead of like having, like a standard tap, they would just have like a garden tap. And it was just like that little detail that you just know that they have purposely really thought of, maybe not necessarily the cheapest way to make something function, but it's certainly the most recyclable way, that they have taken something that probably was used before. Even the sinks were like these big like metal troughs, and you just think like it's bizarre to think about things like that, but it works. It really does work. And I really like that. I really like the reusable aspect of it. So that is the inspiration that I have gained from my work travels, which was great. And now I'm just adapting that to Planet Zoo. So you'll also see that I'm trying to add in detail within my build where possible. It's something that as a Sandbox player, I've always tried to emulate realistic builds. So the detail will be within this franchise. I am obviously looking at my money from time to time, but there's a part of me that is just so used to realistic that I can't help myself. So this part here, I decided to swap it out for one of the billboards. I decided that we really needed to make it a little bit more realistic, and so I'm using the decals again, which is probably my favourite thing to do in Planet Zoo because they're so grungy, and I love that. Like, I do want this building to feel like it has been reused, it's been sitting there, it's been battered by like, sandstorms, that kind of stuff. And like I say, it's supposed to be this building that it looks horrible, but you just know that the food is super fresh. But I love taking things and making it look like it has been reused and repurposed. So yeah, decals, fantastic. I also wanted to make sure that there was a name for this restaurant, but honestly, I have no idea what we're going to call it. So I'm just putting this like little black chalkboard sign up there for the moment, and then we're moving on to the pavement side of it. So I think we got this in the tropical pack, this kind of like moss styled slab, which I'm just trying to make something look a little bit more interesting. So piece count wise, this would be an absolute nightmare on your computer, but it does look really cool. So I'm essentially just trying to build this out, get a bit of a pattern going, and then once we're happy with the layout of it, I'm just going to group it all together, and then we'll just duplicate it along so you don't have to build everything. So there we go, we're just duplicating it like so it looks really good. And then I thought about making a fence, and again, staying with recyclable and reusable, I've got this big metal sign. I don't know if that's what we're going to call it, but essentially I just want to make a fence out of it, so we're just making that just now. I really like these really thin pieces. I think they're absolutely fantastic, and we're just duplicating this all up, putting it into a group and changing the colours, and then we'll just duplicate that along our fence there, which I actually do think this looks pretty cool. My only concern is, because it is made of metal, that is going to heat up really fast in the desert, so stand cautiously beside it. So here we are just changing that billboard out that I spoke about before. We've just put a Chief Beef one in there at the moment, and we're back to decorating with some rocks and some flowers and bushes and the usual stuff that you do for the outside of these little spots, basically, that you have to fill them up. And foliage just works in Planet Zoo. It's the one thing that they 100% know how to get right. So I'm essentially just spamming the same kind of bushes around, kind of making it look a little bit dry, a little bit of trees as well. And then I thought about what else could we add to make this area a little bit more interesting. So I've got this cart here, which I really like. I love how it's got like paint splats on it and stuff like that. And then we're just going to add in some watermelons, which are delicious. So staying with that theme of it being fresh, this restaurant is got the best ingredients, that they have just got these watermelons delivered, and that this place is really good to eat despite it looking questionable. So that's our restaurant in at the moment, and we do have a little bit more cash, so we are going to get some exhibit boxes because I want to start building out the entrance for our zoo. So I've bought 2 at the moment, and you can see I am really running out of cash with only £209. If you have liked this video, then please like the video, and I will see you in the next Planet Zoo franchise. Until then, take care.